we'll tell you why the state isn't entirely convinced Arizona basketball coach Sean Miller is not out of the woods when it comes to the FBI investigation. Should former Wildcat basketball legend Sean Elliott get a statue at McHale Center right next to Lute Olson? And should Arizona teachers strike? These stories and more next on the 520. Welcome to the 520. I'm Steve Nunez.
And I'm Marty Mata the fourth. Thanks for joining us.
All right, before we get started, I got to point something out. Easter Bunny was in town over the weekend, but did he really have to paint your socks?
Oh, these old things. This is just a weekday for me.
Colored eggs and now mismatched socks.
The Padres got
swept.
I'm not even celebrating. This is just a weekday.
Padres, you're wearing Yankees, brother.
Oh,
Come on, bro,
Chacho. I'm a fan.
All right, let's get started, man. You ready for this?
Of course.
All right, under a proposed new contract, Arizona basketball coach Sean Miller will owe Arizona $1 million if he's charged with the crime or found guilty of an NCAA violation. Miller's revised contract comes after a tumultuous year in which his longtime assistant, Book Richardson, was indicted for bribery and fraud as part of the widespread FBI investigation into NCAA basketball. Well, Miller's contract runs until 2022 with $2.9 million per year guaranteed. Is this a sign, finally, the state of Arizona and the University of Arizona do not believe Miller is squeaky clean like he says he is?
Well, that's an obvious point to it. The other point to it is that after the track team, the football team, and now the basketball team, all the money makers, they're finally just trying to protect themselves just a little bit, enough to pass it through. They're tired of lawsuit after lawsuit, legal fee after legal fee. They just want to make sure that they can continue to protect their assets throughout the year.
I think it's a great move. $1 million is no chump change, okay? And the fact of the matter is you got to consider the language used in this proposed amendment to his contract. Charge, okay? To a boxer, that's like, if you blink, mama said knock you out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's charged, not tried or convicted, charged. But, and I know you know where I'm going with this, it is not enough.
It's not.
Here's what I think. Sean Miller makes $2.9 million a year. If he's as innocent as he says he is, then put your money where your mouth is. Either get him fined for $2.9 million and take all of it, or nothing. If he's innocent, he keeps it. If he's not, take all $2.9 million. That's what I say.
That's just a little bit part of it too.
Well, but check this out.
Yeah.
Sean Miller has 175,000 shares in a private company right now, which is part of his contract. All right, his pay. You know what that's worth? $4 million when he cashes out on May 31st in 2020.
Oh, wow, that is
Take $2.9 million if he's innocent.
Well, keeping it on basketball, did UA's first round blowout to the loss of Buffalo in the NCAA tournament hurt DeAndre Ayton from being named college basketball's freshman of the year? Ayton lost to fellow Phoenician Duke's Marvin Bagley. Both Ayton and Bagley's statistics were nearly even Steven in the year of 2017.
He absolutely got robbed of freshman of the year, but once again, I'm going to blame Sean Miller on this one because you know what? Arizona's performance and lack of adjustments during that game in the NCAA tournament and allowing smaller guards to double and triple team Ayton and not have a game plan for it ruined his chances, not only for Arizona to advance, but for him to advance as freshman of the year. And I think it ruined his chances to be the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft.
If you're asking me if he's going to be the #1 pick, I think the NBA could care less what his resume looked like in college. They could care less what Bagley's resume looked like in college. It doesn't affect how he's running from basket to basket. It doesn't affect his three-point shooting technique. The lottery is going to affect all of that. It'll depend on the team's needs, the city, yada, 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 draft projection. After draft projection, I think Ayton's fine. He'll still be top 5,
I think
top 2.
I think he got exposed. And yeah, he'll be a top lottery pick, but I think he got exposed. And I think Bagley, because of the fact that Duke advanced, Bagley was able to showcase some of his skills and I think just leapfrog Ayton. And that's why Bagley got freshman of the year and not Ayton.
Or maybe Bagley also got freshman of the year because of his actual play as a team player. We all said from time and time after again that DeAndre Ayton couldn't last when it wasn't up to DeAndre Ayton. It sounds like that's what the deal was there. Should former Arizona Wildcat basketball Sean Elliott get a statue at McHale Center next to Lute Olson? Elliott, the best player to ever come out of Tucson, will be inducted into the 2018 National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame later this year. Elliott led the Wildcats to their first Final Four in 1988, and he was a 3-time Pac-10 Player of the Year award winner, Wooden Award winner, and the AP Player of the Year in 1989.
What is U of A waiting for? Let's just consider his stats, okay? Just his stats, his resume. In 133 games at the U of A, Sean Elliott scored over 2,500 points, averaged 19.2 points per game, shot 51% from the field, and dished out 3.4 assists per game. You know what that tells me? He was not only a playmaker and an efficient scorer, Sean Elliott was a distributor who made everyone on the team play much, much better. Now, for the intangibles, okay? Sean Elliott, a YMCA legend, a Choya High School legend, who, by the way, he dunked on me when we were in high school together.
Back in the day.
Yeah,
Made
okay.
you a fool.
Sean Elliott, at a time when the U of A their games were only shown on Channel 18 KTTU with rabbit ears and tinfoil. ESPN came knocking because he turned the U of A program around. All of a sudden, ESPN and Roy Firestone, back in the day, who was the face of ESPN, was interviewing Sean Elliott, putting highlights on ESPN, and all of a sudden, Tucson was relevant. He made Tucson a basketball town. Yeah, I give credit to Lute Olson. Yeah, I give credit to Steve Kerr. But no one has done more for this town since Sean Elliott was at the U of A. Period.
And
statue.
I gotta disagree with you. If we're going to erect a statue of a player, every single player has to be in that conversation. From Sean Elliott to Aaron Gordon, Derek Williams, Mike Bibby. Those are just a few of those names. Those people have to get compared to Sean Elliott. I say they go head-to-head with him. If we're going to erect it for just a humanitarian, if we're going to just give him a statue for just being philanthropic, yeah, then maybe that statue should be somewhere else. Maybe it should be somewhere, you know, somewhere in the student union, somewhere by Old Main.
I'm insulted you would name someone else next to Sean Elliott that did not contribute like that. That's like saying, hey, Dennis Rodman, you deserve a statue because Michael Jordan just wasn't the greatest of all time.
It's a lot closer than that. It's a lot closer than that. It's a Jerry Rice to Joe Montana comparison.
Not. Sean Elliott is the Michael Jordan of Tucson. He deserves a statue next to Lute Olson because he made Lute Olson. Don't forget that.
You got to be realistic, Steve. You got to be realistic.
Don't forget that. Well, here's another example that supports the 520's argument that Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott should be fired immediately. Pac-12 failed to submit a team to participate in this year's inaugural college basketball 3-on-3 national tournament. Well, the tournament features a team of seniors who have used up all of their eligibility from all 31 conferences and gives them a chance to finally earn some money and split $100,000 in prize money. Let me restate that. Larry Scott failed to send an email to register the Pac-12 in this tournament.
Where is his focus at? Where is his priorities?
Really want to know?
Where do we have to stretch it at? Because, I mean, you know, recently on a Phoenix radio show, a Pac-12 representative got interviewed and they said, no, the Pac-12's doing fine. Women's sports are doing great. Women's sports are excelling. But the actual money makers, here we go again with the DirecTV deal being failed. All of these failure after failure, and this is just a little minute failure that's piled on top of all that dirty laundry.
You know, and it's a shame because here's a commissioner who you would think, because the NCAA wants to position these players so that they can advance their careers and make money. Here's an opportunity to make free money, and he ruined it. He could not even send an email, which shows you said, where's his head? I can tell you where his head is. It's up his you-know-where. That's where it's at. And it's a crying shame that he took away an opportunity for young students who may not play basketball in the professional level for a chance to just make some extra coin so that they can move on into their career. And again, the DirecTV and scheduling basketball games at 11 o'clock, midnight Eastern time, football games, same thing. It's pathetic. Fire him.
And of course, there's the all-seeing question. We don't know what we don't know. If it was monetarily efficient to do one way or another, we don't know that one.
It didn't cost anything to go click email.
Click email. But how screwed up is it? The state is still paying the legal bills for former UA track coach Craig Carter, who was convicted of assaulting a student athlete. It took almost 3 years to bring Carter's case to trial, but it took Pima County jury less than 3 hours to find him guilty. The victim testified Carter did not. He could face between 15 to 23 years in prison when sentenced May 14th.
This is one of those shaking my head, SMH. You know, granted, the state has to represent him, okay? But he confessed on tape to U of A police what he did. Why not just settle? Right now, it's costing U of A actually over $1 million, $885,000 just in legal fees to private lawyers and another $120,000 to the AG's office who used to represent him. They didn't want to touch it. Why would the U of A want to continue to represent? Just settle, because there's a pending civil lawsuit against him. They're going to have to settle or pay $2 million. Just get rid of it. He's got another trial that they have to pay his legal fees for. And he was just convicted and could face 5 years to 23 years in prison. It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolute, I called it buffoonery back there. Like when we were speaking
buffoonery times two.
It's buffoonery times two. At the very least, a good step in the right direction is the actual Sean Miller contract. This is exactly what they were talking about in the past. This is a reflection of such.
And Rich Rod.
Of course.
It's ridiculous. All right, let's switch this up a little bit. Should Arizona teachers go on strike? Well, a day after more than 2,000 teachers and supporters rallied at the state capitol calling for a 20% pay raise, Governor Ducey rejected their demands. He said no to pay raises and no to cutting his $100 million corporate tax cuts, which could pay for teacher pay raises. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. May I say it again? Buffoonery.
Times three.
Buffoonery times three. There was a story that we covered earlier in the year where the Vail School District is going to build tiny houses because these teachers can't afford to live where they actually want to teach. These are the reasons for such. They're completely underpaid. I know teachers personally that are trying to apply for food stamps because they can't afford to pay for their food. They can't afford for their well-being. Governor Doug Ducey is a reflection of Larry Scott. Where is his head at? Where are his priorities when the entire teachers union is completely powerless?
It's pathetic. The average teacher pay is $42,000. The starting teacher pay is in the mid-20s. A 20% pay raise means every teacher could get $8,400. Now let's consider this, okay? His tax cuts that equal $100 million, corporate tax cut could easily pay for this, okay? All right, if he doesn't choose to do that, all right, leave that alone. But look what the state just did. They just passed Ducey's 0.6% sales tax and extended it without voter approval through 2041. That tax brings in $500 million a year. You know how easy it is just to take 1 year of that money and say, here, teachers, let's reward you, bring you up, and you know, pay for all the sins of the past and get you up to speed and say thank you for all the hard work you're doing and keep teacher retention here in the state of Arizona. It's that simple. Instead, he's paying for private prisons and corporate tax cuts. Wow.
And of course, the elephant in the room is, well, because if they want more money, they have to teach in summer school, they have to teach Saturday school, secondary options to their school. I say just pay them where they need to be paid. Cut all the jazz out of the question. Pay them when they need to be paid. They're working hard, just as hard as any other industry in the world.
I hope the teachers strike, because when there are no kids inside that classroom, it's going to cost the state more, and they're going to have to do something more than Governor Ducey saying, well, I'm going to give them a $500 pay raise. That, to me, slap in the face. Slap in the face. Well, all right, let's jump right into Do We Care? As you know by now, we're not just a sports show. We like to sprinkle in a few community issues, break them down, and ask ourselves, do we care? Well, Governor Doug Ducey, back to him, is embracing President Donald Trump's announcement that he wants a National Guard deployed along the border. Ducey says Washington has ignored the issue and needs help, or the help is needed there. Do we care?
It's ridiculous, unbelievable buffoonery. We gotta keep throwing in adjectives. You know, we don't want to just do nothing but talk smack about the state we live in under the politicians that we may or may not care about, but they just do nothing but feed it. They do nothing but feed this conversation. Why do we need the help of the National Guard to begin with? Of course, we could use a little more eyes, we could use a little more hands, but actually, how realistic is it to take these people away from the posts that they're actually contributing to?
Well, I support more border security, but that doesn't mean I want a militarized border. And I will say this, it's all a facade. And here's why. Because I covered these stories. I've been out there. I've seen the military or the National Guard in action out there. They can't enforce immigration laws. They can't run after people, chase them down and arrest them, okay? What they can do is sit there and serve as the eyes and ears of the Border Patrol. And guess what? Furthermore, why it's a facade? Because the number of people crossing and getting arrested illegally is at a 27-year low. There's no need for it.
No need for it. In a state-mandated auction, the city of Tucson has sold more than 500 guns, including semi-automatics, since October. The gun sale is part of a court order that forced the city to stop destroying guns in compliance with state law. Do we care, Mr. Nunez, about this one?
You know, again, we keep harshing on this, but look, why would you take these guns from criminals and then sell them and give it right back to the potential criminals? Because I don't care who you sell it to, it has a potential to get right back into the black market and right into the hands of criminals. If I'm a police officer, I am pissed right now.
Also, if you're a civilian, you may be equally as pissed. And that's the worst part about it, is the state's crying and badgered for money. Where's all this money at? And they're making extra money with this, and it's going absolutely nowhere.
They only made $85,000 off of this. It didn't even pay for their legal fees to challenge this law.
They don't even care.
Tells you where they're at.
Of course.
Well, in the aftermath of the high school shooting in Florida, where 17 people were killed, including students and staff, some locally questioned if local ABC television station K-Gun should take the gun out of its name. Do we care?
It's too politically correct. K-Gun's logo isn't, you know, a Ruger or a Smith & Wesson, and they're not actively talking about pro-Second Amendment. It's too politically correct, in my opinion. It could stay the same.
Well, back in the day, Marshall K-Gun, you know, did tout, you know.
Yeah.
The
way
old
back
West
in the day.
And
way
all.
back in
but
the day.
That was back in the day. We're talking about today. And I used to work at K-Gun. And we had this conversation after Columbine, and we had this conversation after January 8th, 2011, which we all know about in Tucson. And gun and K-Gun does not represent the good that reporting in the service that's done for the community. And it in no way promotes gun violence. I think, once again, it's way too politically correct, and it ruins the debate where the debate needs to be: gun control.
Of course. Well said, Steve. Well said.
All right. Well, you've heard the phrase, "Oh, no, you didn't." Well, here at the 520, we're not afraid to tell it like it is with, "Oh, yes, we did." It all gets started. Shame on you, Laura Ingraham. Let me be clear. It is not okay for adults like you to criticize, mock, and verbally attack survivors of mass shootings, especially innocent kids like David Hogg, who survived the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, in which 17 of his classmates and teachers were killed. At a time when adults like you should use the power of your platform to offer hope to our children, you failed David Hogg and all other victims just like him. In fact, you failed us all, and instead used your power in a display of hatred, all to bully a teenager? Why? Because David Hogg is leading the charge for gun control? Even if you don't agree, as adults, shouldn't we at least listen to our children who are victims of gun violence? Good for you, David Hogg, for standing up to the NRA and for expressing your First Amendment rights. And good for you, David Hogg, for calling on advertisers to boycott Ingraham's show. Fox News, you can stand by Ingraham. I, along with 17 advertisers who have so far pulled their sponsorships, choose to stand up for David Hogg. And please, spare us all from your heartless apology, apparently For you and others just like you, money and guns are more important than kids and their lives. Again, don't get it twisted. You two have a right of freedom of speech and opposition, but that doesn't mean it's acceptable to be mean-spirited and attack kids. Who's the adult here? Not you. That's for sure. Keep your apology and put it where the sun doesn't shine.
Thank you, Steve. And back to sports. With all the hoopla during this NFL offseason, there's trades, there's cuts, there's draft projections, and NFL owners have decided to get even busier. A new helmet-to-helmet rule is now in place, a mandatory 15 yards and a not-so-lenient ejection penalty, and of course a pretty hefty fine. This new rule applies to any one of the 22 players on the field, ball carriers, tacklers, even linemen caught in the muck. And everyone's first reaction is, there goes the game of football. Oh, well, back in my day, things were different. And yes, things were different. Jim Brown, one of the most physical backs in the history of the game, was only able to last 8 seasons, with no preseason and less games than a modern college season. And today, Tom Brady turning 41, Drew Brees turning 40, Frank Gore turning 35, and all still playing above 70% of the snaps in every single game. To us, it's Sunday night. To them, it's their daughter's ballet lessons. It's the medical procedures that are out of pocket because no insurance on the planet will cover someone that liable, and the NFL won't either. It's better working conditions. It's enforced longevity to a human's body, and they're not shedding their pads and using flags. They're just eliminating the possibility of an ambulance having to drive on the field.
Well said, but I don't agree. And here's why. All right. I get we need to protect players from concussions. I get the game is more violent than it's ever been. I get that players are stronger, faster, and more physical than ever in the history of the NFL. But what happens to the quarterback sneak? What happens to the goal line stance? They're just taking away the game because every play, literally, there's helmet-to-helmet contact. You know what the game's going to turn into? What baseball is complaining about. Flags and just taking too long for the game to complete. And that's what we're going to see with this.
We're not going to see that. Helmet-to-helmet is poor technique in general.
Helmet-to-helmet should be like ridiculously helmet-to-helmet, not little
as textbook technique. When you go down for an efficient tackle, when you go down for as a safety, when you're crossing somebody over the middle of the field. And you accidentally hit helmets,
there's a flag.
Of course, it is poor technique. You're taught to get as low as you can on both sides of the football, so why would you stand completely up with your head down,
We got players that are 6'8".
It is efficient
How much
technique.
lower can you get?
The 6'8" people
Come on.
are taught to get as low as they possibly can.
Pass rush, what happens? Boop, flag.
And I think that the pass rush won't result in a flag, it will result in excel technique.
We're going to see. There's going to be so much controversy at the beginning of the football season because we're going to just see flag after flag after flag. It's going to take away the game.
And if you want to break an omelet, if you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. It'll get worse before it gets better.
I don't like omelets, so I'm not going to break a few eggs. All right, man. Well, bottom line, our goal is to tell it like it is because it's all about giving voice to opinions even if you don't agree.
Be sure to follow us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at the 520 Tucson.
And if you have a topic you want us to cover, let us know. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Marty Mata IV. Thanks for joining us.
Go Wildcats.